As a leader, if you were to give or tell somebody to do something, do you have the corporate culture where people will just do things even though they know it's not right, or even though they know something, that can't work out? Hey, it's Jacob. I am here in Melbourne, Australia. I was actually born in Melbourne and I get to give a talk here, so not often that happens, but I digress. I'm here to give a talk about my new book, The Future Leader, and I was having a conversation with somebody today during lunch about this idea of command and control in leadership. And I was reminded of a story from David Marquet. And some of you might remember his book, Turn This Ship Around. And I really love the story that David told in his book, and it's the story that I wanted to share with you. So David was in command of a new submarine, and he wanted to simulate a nuclear meltdown just to see how the crew would react. And so he shut off the nuclear reactors, and he was giving commands to the members of his crew. And one of the commands that he gave his crew was ahead 2/3. And this is a heading on the submarine, the speed heading. And so he shouted out, ahead 2/3. And the first officer repeats his command and says, ahead 2/3. And the navigator then repeats the command as well. And everybody says, ahead 2/3. But David notices that nothing changed. The submarine is still going the same speed. Nothing's changing. And so David is wondering, what's going on? I just gave this command and nobody's responding. And so he goes over to the officer who was supposed to put the submarine into the 2/3 heading. And he says, what's going on? Didn't you hear my command? I just said ahead 2/3 and you're just sitting there not doing anything. And the officer looks at David and says, yes, I heard what you said, but there's no ahead 2/3 setting on this submarine. And David then looks at the first officer who repeated the order that David yelled out. And he says, did you know that there's no 2/3 setting on this submarine? And the first officer says, yes. And then David looks at him and says, wait a minute. If you knew there was no 2/3 setting on this submarine, then why did you repeat the order after I gave it if you knew that setting didn't exist? And I'm sure you can guess the response that the officer gave David. And his response was, because you told me so. And I love this story because it really speaks volumes about culture. And so I want you to think about, what kind of a culture do you have at your company? As a leader, if you were to give or tell somebody to do something, do you have the corporate culture where people will just do things even though they know it's not right, or even though they know something that can't work out? Or do you have the type of corporate culture where people are willing to speak up, where they are willing to tell you that something doesn't work, that something can't work? Are they willing to give you that feedback? And think about if you were in David's shoes and you are the captain of the submarine, and everybody else, your entire team is on that submarine. They are the various officers. You yell out ahead 2/3. What are the other members of your crew going to do? Are they going to repeat the order because you told them so? Or are they going to speak up? Something for you to think about, and hello from Melbourne, Australia.